Well, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Today, I'm going to start running the downspout and then fill this trench in with the pipe that we're going to use for the gutter. So here is our 4-inch PVC. So it's going to run off the barn down into this trench. Usually you would go straight down, but because I have a big sonotube footing right here holding up this shipping container corner, I had to 45 this down, which is no big deal. You won't notice it from the top. So it's going to run down this trench and then 90 over and come all the way to the other side of the barn. 90 again, and it's going to come in to another downspout on this side of the barn, and then from these downspouts, they'll go together. They'll meet the downspouts from the house, which I'm going to pipe over here, and then they will go into our first 3,000 gallon water tank. These will all be plumbed in series, all connected on the bottom with a valve to shut them off in case we notice any problem with a tank. If we have to get in there to clean it or something happens, we could isolate a tank and get in there, pump all that water out into the other tanks, clean it, do whatever we have to do, and then put it back into service. So basically this 12,000 gallon system is going to work in unison, but it can be independent if we need to. So once we get all this piping run, we could start doing our big backfill. So I'm trying to get that set up now, and first step is to pull all these pipes through, get my downspouts all figured out. I'm gonna have to weld some brackets on the shipping container, probably on this corner here, that will hold up our PVC pipes, and then we'll probably utilize some of the aluminum downspouts that the gutter guys installed temporarily. I'll probably use those at the top to elbow down and then attach to our leaf eater, and then we'll have PVC from there. Basically these are a wet line. They're going to always be full of water, and they're basically going to be as full of water as the tops of the tanks are. Our main dump that goes into the tank is going to be about where that white valve is at the top, that flange. That's going to be our downspout level of water. So they'll all be about right here all the time. And then we have to just calculate the house elevation to make sure we know where to put this leaf eater, because we don't want the leaf eater to be below the level of those tanks when they're full, because then the water would spill out of the leaf eater. So we want to have the leaf eater, you know, well above where the tanks are going to be. So that's my goal for today. I want to try to get this trench filled in and get our downspouts all situated, coming up out of the ground, and then I'll start, once I backfill all this stuff, I can get over here with a ladder and weld all the brackets on that we're going to use to hold up the downspouts. So I'm going to start with that today. So the way you can tell these fittings, it's kind of cool. They have a seam where they're put together, so you know that that is right in the center of that. And so, you know, putting this up there, I could potentially get off, but all of these fittings have a seam. So as long as I line up the seam, I know that these are going to be perfectly straight with one another, and then we can go ahead and just keep rocking and rolling. They have one in the center of all sides. So this pipe is going to lay on the ground like that, and then this 45 has to come into it. So I'm going to use this center of this one and then the side of the 90, and that way I know that this is going to be perfectly square with one another. So I'll glue this up, and I am not going to skimp on the glue when it comes to this stuff that's going to be buried in the ground. All right, first fitting glued up. So here's our downspout 45, and it's going to be going right off there like that. So I'm going to glue this pipe into here, then I'm going to set this on the ground, and then I'm going to adjust this pipe. I might have to pull it out and cut a little bit off of it, trying to get that to be perfectly plumb on the barn is difficult. All right, so here is our T, and our leaf eater is going to be sitting on top of this T, and then our first flush is going to go past this T. When the first flush fills up, it's going to spill over into this elbow, which will be attached to our downspout piping that we're doing now. So what I need to know to position this downspout in the ground, and then we could, you know, glue it up later. We'll just have the fitting sticking up out of the ground a little bit that we can just access after we backfill. I need to know this center to this center, and the cool thing with these little, you know, fittings is they all have like a seam right in the center. So I know that if I measure the center of this pipe to the center of this pipe, it's 8 3/4. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and you can see where our downspout hole in the gutter is directly in the center of this beam, I don't know, post, I don't know what you would call it, but it's really dead center of that. I'm just gonna line up these black lines, kind of spin the PVC. All right, so now this portion is going to be sticking out of the ground. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take some like 200 sandpaper here and just rough this PVC up, because we're going to spray all of our downspouts black to match the barn. It'll also hide the fact that we're doing a first flush and having an extra gutter pipe on there. But this PVC does take paint. You just have to scuff it up a little bit, and we'll take a rag and clean it off and spray paint it. I don't have any acetone, but really you should clean this with acetone. So before we do the majority of the gutter downspouts and stuff, we'll pick up some acetone. We got this side done. That's just a temporary pipe just to demonstrate. That'd be the downspout that comes in. That pipe will be painted black, and then it goes down in here, goes along the trench to the other side of the barn to an elbow. Then it's going to come over here, and we're going to put a T here, and then this downspout will go in and plug into that T, and then we'll continue on and then go up into the tank. But what I wanted to show you, the cool little trick a plumber buddy of mine told me. You know, it's hard to put this. We're doing the same thing we did over there, so 45 and then another 45 and then a section of pipe to get us down to where the bottom of our trench is. But like I was saying before, these couplings, this is a 45, have marks on every 45 degrees, so you kind of know. There's like a little one right there, so you know exactly where they are. And to line these 45s up, the trick is to use the writing on the pipe, because they're printed on here perfectly straight. So I have this one set in the middle of the writing, and so I'll do the exact same thing with this one, and that's how I'm going to know that they're perfectly in line with one another. So let me glue this up, and then we can go sand it. What we want is we want these to be opposing one another, and that's how we get our 90 degree. I'm just going to have the writing up. Switch to the better can of glue here. Okay, opposing one another, right dead center of the writing. Kind of move it around, spin it until it's perfect. All right, cool. I'll go over and sand this, paint one of these fittings that'll be sticking up out of the ground, and then we'll work on the next section. All right, so there's our T. It comes down to this mark that we have, which is the center of our downspout. Here's our first flush. Here's the center of our downspout, center of the pipe, comes down, center of this T. I haven't glued the T yet, so it's a little bit off, but I don't want to smash it on there because I probably won't be able to get it back off. But I want to be able to measure all this stuff and dry fit everything before we fully commit. So the way we're going to do that is I have a little torpedo level, and I know that I'm going to weld this 1¼ inch piece of metal on here, and so it looks like I need to go up about there. So I'm just going to kind of like put some rocks and stuff in here, hold this, and then we're going to get a measurement in between these pipes. Looks like we're about 11 inches. And I know that they go into the fittings 2 inches. So I can go cut a pipe 11 plus 2 and 2, 4, so 15 inches. I can cut a 15-inch pipe, and then I can glue all this stuff together, and I know that it's going to be exactly right. 11, 2, 4. Let it dry just a little. I'm not going to glue this or prime this side because I still need to get some parts before we can continue with the gutters. We just want to hook up the barn to the plumbing so I can backfill this ditch. Put a level on here, try to get this thing to be level. Alright, you can see, level, then we'll come off that one. As soon as that sets up, we'll glue this little 15-inch piece onto that pipe. And then it'll be all set. All right, here we go. All right, there it is. So another emphasis on using the writing on the pipes really lets you line up all of your, halfway points of all the fittings. So I'm lining up all the fittings with the writing, and then it kind of guarantees that I'm going to make it nice and square to at least where it is. And so I'm going to have to adjust this pipe up and down just a little bit to level out that where the downspout goes in. But other than that, we can start backfilling. Cool. Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to show you guys how I'm going to do these gutter downspouts for the barn. Basically, it's a wet system, and I have one of them finished here, and they consist of a couple different things. The first thing is this leaf eater at the top. Then they're going to come down to a T and an elbow, and that's important because when the gutters dump into this leaf eater, the water is going to come all the way down here and fill up this pipe. And this is basically going to be called our first flush. And that's important because when the roof has dust or pollen or anything on there, you don't really want that stuff going into your tanks. Even though our tanks are going to have, you know, multi-stage filter to filter the water out and stuff, we want to try to keep that as clean as possible. So what this first flush system does is you're able to come over here and open this valve up and drain all the junk that the gutters will collect off of the roof. So that's kind of important to have. I made this tall enough to where I can slip a bucket underneath there, and that way we can come over here. We could, after it gets done raining, we could come over and we could drain these first flushes into a bucket and save that water for the garden or for flowers or whatever. So this pipe is going to be plumbed into our gutters lines that we ran. We ran 4-inch lines from both sides of the barn, and we're going to run one from the house, and that's going to get plugged right into that and glued in. So I just kind of wanted to show you how we're going to go ahead and do that. So the first main thing is this leaf eater, and I got this online. It consists of a couple different things. It's really cool. It has the top and bottom come apart, and there's a screen inside of here that's a real fine mesh screen, and it's basically, like the name implies, it's supposed to take the leaves and like the large things out of the water coming off the gutter. So this is going to get plumbed onto our 4-inch pipe and glued to it, and then I'm going to be able to take this top off and clean this screen. So that's really important. So that's going to be there. This is for Schedule 40, but it comes with a fitting, and this fitting goes onto the leaf eater and gets glued on there, and then this will get glued onto our Schedule 40 pipe. So that's important. And then we'll have a T and an elbow that we'll have to glue together with our first flush pipe at the bottom, and that's going to consist of a coupler that we're going to glue this 4-inch to 2-inch reducer into, and then we're going to glue a 2-inch pipe and then the valve on the end of that, and then that will give us that where I can come over and I could dump that first flush and keep the water as clean as possible going into the storage tanks. Also, another crucial kind of thing is, if you're going to make a system like this, you want to have the headroom above the level that your tank is at. And let me show you guys what I'm actually talking about. This is very important. You do not want to have that leaf eater positioned the same height as your tanks are. It needs to be up above it. That's the head space. So basically our tanks are at this level here where the downspout comes in, and so our leaf eater needs to be as high as possible to give us this priming headspace. And what's going to happen is the gutter is going to fill that first flush up, and then it's going to come over and spill over that T into that elbow and then go into our lines, and then we'll run over to the tank and go in. But gravity needs to take over and push that water. So by having some headspace up above that, it creates a lot of pressure to get that gravity to start working, so we can keep up with any type of heavier rain. So the more headspace you can have, the better. So what we did is we raised our leaf eater up as high as we possibly can and still be able to use our aluminum downspout elbow at the top. There's 2 elbows that come off the gutter and then go over to our tank, and that's where our leaf eater is going to be positioned, and then it'll go in and get plumbed into that 45 right there, which takes it away into our system. So I'm going to show you guys how I'm building that. It's pretty simple. It's not too elaborate. But just a couple things to keep in mind if you're going to do some sort of a downspout like this with a rainwater catchment system. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Basically, I'm going to have to cut 3 pieces of pipe. Our main piece of pipe that's going to be plumbed into our trench pipe that we laid, our first flush pipe, and then our head pipe that connects to the leaf eater. So I have all those marked up: 15 3/4, 45 1/4 for our first flush, and then 5'6" for our main line. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those, and then we'll glue it all together. All right, we got our pipes cut. And there it is. Our leaf feeder, our head pipe, the T and the elbow, which will be glued tight. And then we have our first flush system. And then this is our main line that ties into the whole system. So go ahead and glue those up. I'm going to leave this one unprimed, and we need to get these all glued up, drying, and then I'm going to paint them black. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start priming and gluing these pipes up. All right, here's the primer and the glue we're using. I just picked this up at the plumbing store that specialized just in plumbing, not a box store. These 4-inch PVC lines are 20 feet long, so you can't just go buy those at any store. You have to go to a plumbing specialty store. And this purple primer is no joke, so be extra careful. I'm going to go ahead and prime up both sides of this 90, and basically I'm just rolling this primer around all the spots where it's going to be glued. And then this T needs to come off 90 degrees from this fitting, so I need to make sure that I glue the right spot. If I were to glue this 90 down here, it wouldn't work for our system, so I have to make sure. I like to have a visual. I like to lay all the parts out on the ground so that I can go back and I can look, okay, this fitting needs to be glued just like this. Let's go ahead and glue it up. And this is when you don't want to skimp. You don't want too much, but you want to have enough that this glue makes a great bond for this pipe, because this is a permanent, you know, fitting. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and get it done. All right, so there it's put together. I'm gonna try to wipe off any extra glue that kind of oozes out, just to keep it pretty looking. It's not imperative, but like I said, I'm going to sand this all down and paint it black anyway. So we'll go ahead and set these back here. And then let's build the first flush. So the first flush system is going to consist of the coupler, the reducer, a pipe, and the valve. And so let's prime all these pieces up. Come up to this tank, this is going to be off, and I want to know which direction. So you walk up to the first flush, and I want to be able to open this line. Yes, this is okay. We'll glue this side. These are 1/4 quarter turn valves and they only go one direction, so kind of you can manipulate this either way to figure out which direction you want that pipe to open. All right, so now we just got to wait for this stuff to dry. So let's go ahead and glue this reducer first. I don't want this to be tight, so I'm just gonna push that down and just kind of hold it for a second. If you just push it in and release it without letting it set up, it actually will push apart. And so a lot of times if you're trying to be super precise on your measuring, you could get off really easily that way. All right, so we will do this 2-inch reducer now. Okay, and we'll do our valve. Now, if I was going to leave this white, I would be a little bit more precise on getting the purple stuff on here. Kind of see, I want to have a little bit of room for the valve to operate, so I'm leaving like 1/4 of an inch or something like that, just so if I push this down, I don't want this valve handle to hit this pipe at all. All right, so now that's glued together. Now let's glue both these pipes on, and we'll do this first one here since this coupler is already primed. That'll be just a quick, easy. Oh, this purple primer. See why I'm working on a piece of cardboard. Do this coupler first. Roll it around. I'm doing this pipe first because it really doesn't matter lining up anything with this pipe because it just basically comes out of here. So I could actually stand this up, give it a twist, and let it set up. All right, a couple minutes. Okay, so now we need to connect this spot, and this is when it gets a little bit crucial. This pipe here doesn't necessarily have to have it turned in a certain direction, but this pipe with the first flush on it, I want to make sure that that valve is sticking out like in the middle of this fitting, so that when this is sitting up against the barn, that valve is going to be pointed straight away from the barn so I can get access to it. As well prime this other one as well, let it dry. Okay. Primer should be nice and dry. We'll do this oval first. Roll that around. Okay.
kind of push it in there, and then you kind of just twist just a little. Creates a better bond that way. Okay, now let's glue this first flush on there. So I'm kind of just going to line this up. I know the valve is perfectly up and down, you know, so I'm getting it perfect. And then I'm going to make just a pencil mark right here at the top. So I know that when I line up, see there's like a little check right there. When I line up that little check with this pencil mark, I know my valve down there is going to be right in the middle, sticking straight out away from the barn. So there's our two lines lined up. Just give this a little pressure for a couple seconds, then we can let go. All right, now onto our headpiece. We're going to do the same thing. Prime this. Prime both these sides. Alright, feels nice and tacky. Go ahead and glue this one up. I like to put glue on both of the connections, just make sure. Push it in there, give it a little twist, some pressure. All right. Okay, so now all we have left is our leaf eater. It comes with this little coupler, and this takes it from this thin plastic to a schedule 40. These are both 4-inch pipes, but they just don't line up. And it basically just goes right on top of that and then right on top of this. So we're gonna prime it, but like I said before, if you were gonna keep this white, you would want to use, like, they do make a clear primer, which I would recommend if you were gonna keep these pipes white. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime both these pieces up. And I'm just taking as much of this primer off this little sponge thing as I can. So we'll prime this. Let that dry. Okay. And I'm just gonna do where it's gonna be on here. These big 4-inch fittings, this pipe kind of slides up in there like 2 whole inches. So I have to be careful not to over prime. I'm basically just gonna prime where it's gonna be glued. So let that tack up a little bit. It's like this one's already tacky. This nice breeze we have going on through the barn here is drying stuff fast. So all right, so let's do this one first. So we'll kind of just glue this big part of the coupler. Now we can glue. Okay, so we'll now glue the inside of this. Trying to be really careful. Okay, now again, I want to make sure that this lines up right. So I'm going to lay that leaf eater down flat before I push this on. All right. Finished product. Leaf feeder, headspace. We got our first flush, and then our main downspout that ties back into our system. Oh, all right. So now I'll go over, let these set up a little bit, and then we're gonna start sanding on them, and then I'm gonna start painting them black. I have some sawhorses set up in the back, and if it's not too windy, I'll spray them right now. All right, we got them out here on the sawhorses. I'm gonna grab a sanding block, and I'm just gonna go ahead and just sand all the pipes and fittings as best I can, and then we'll take some acetone and clean those up. All right, got them all painted. Black leaf guards. Can't find those online. So once the paint sets up, we'll peel off these two pieces, and then we'll get them put on to the shipping container. I just got to go get my brackets ready, and then I'm gonna have to do a little scraping of the paint off of the shipping container, which is gonna kill me, but I can always touch it up after, and then I'll get the welder out, weld those on, and I'm going to figure out something to do for a bracket to hold these on the wall. So I'm thinking of just getting some like plumbing strapping, like a galvanized stuff so it won't rust, and then I can paint it black. So I'll just have to figure something out, but I'm gonna go figure out where I'm gonna put these brackets and start getting the welder out. All right, I got a couple scrap chunks of this 1¼ inch stock. I'm going to use this to weld to the shipping containers. I have I'm cutting them into 2-inch pieces, and so I got those two done. I'm going to cut that one in half. It'll give me 4, and I think just one at the top, one at the bottom should be plenty enough to hold up these gutters. They're really in the ground, so that really gives it a big strong point to anchor from. So I really just want to hold them up against the shipping container. So I think these 2 points will be plenty enough. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cut, and then we'll start prepping the shipping container to take a little bit of that paint off so that we could weld. All right, I'm on the back side of the barn over here by the water tanks, and I have a mark at 2 foot and then a mark at 6 foot. And I'm going to go ahead and just put these here. I'm going to make sure that it's centered. I'm going to trace a line around these that I know how much paint I need to remove. I'm going to remove a little bit extra so that I can run a bead on both sides of this, and then we'll weld these to the shipping container on both sides, and then paint them, get them all set. We'll wrap this up. All right, got those marked. So let me go get the grinder with probably just a grinding wheel on it, and I'll just cut around here a little bit just to kind of grind around here, I should say, just to get this paint off, all the layers down to the raw steel, and then we'll be able to weld those on. All right, so that'll be enough for me just to run a bead on this one, run a bead on that one. Good enough. We'll touch the paint back up. So I'll do this on all 4 spots, and then we'll get the welder. All right, got the welder out, and we got this bracket up on here, and this is how we're going to hold this up. This is a cool little magnet that keeps it at 90 degrees. So that's sitting on there, and then I will go ahead
and plumb this up with just a little torpedo level. Make sure that's nice and plumb. And then I want to just make sure that's in the center of this foot beam right here. So 4.5 inches, right dead center. So we'll weld the bead on the side of here, and then we'll do that on all 4 sides, and then we should be ready to do a little touch-up paint and then put the gutters up. All right, all 4 are on there. Not too bad. I'll clean this up a little.
Not every day you have a cow going through your yard. We have a whole herd of cows in our yard. Hey babe, that one's a bull, so we gotta be careful with him. Look at, there's more cows. They have to have gotten out of the fence. Well, good thing I harvested my garlic already. Oh no. Are they gonna go to the greenhouse? I don't care what they do as long as they don't go and destroy my greenhouse. Like, if we could, I'd go over and close the sides, but I'm afraid they would just ruin them. This is not good. Levi's gonna use the truck and hopefully scare them away because they're going straight to the greenhouse. It worked. Man, that was close.
Well, good morning, guys. Our downspout pipes are nice and dry. So we're gonna go ahead and peel this tape off, prime these up, and Tanya and I are gonna glue them, throw them up there, and we picked up a strap that I'm hoping is gonna work to strap these onto those brackets that I welded. So we'll jump over there, throw them up. we got our pipe downspout over here, set on this ladder. We're gonna go ahead and glue and prime both these connections, and then we'll stick it up, push it down into the fitting that's in the ground, and then Tanya's just gonna hold it here for me, and then we're gonna use some of this, they call it plumber's tape, but it's basically just a galvanized strap that has holes in it, and we're gonna use some tech screws and just wrap this around the PVC downspout, and then just screw it right to that bracket that we welded on this you know, foot right here. So
yeah, that's so visible. Do I need to move this at all? Is it in the right spot?
right here. Can kind of come toward me just a little bit this way. Right there. All right, let's grab this strapping. Go around here. All right, so there's one side. Stretch this over. Let's go toward you.
Oh, there's a hummingbird right there. Oh, it was right behind the camera.
All right.
Nice.
Probably could just get away with one strap, but we'll put two on. Basically, it's just gonna strap on there, and then we'll take our pre-bent aluminum downspouts that they put on temporarily. We're gonna take the top section off and just reuse it for that, and have that just go right into our leaf heater. So now the hard part's going to be pre-drilling this with that pipe thing in the way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to should have pre-drilled that before we put the pipe in, huh?
Well, now we know for the other side. Nice.
Cool.
Well, that went really well.
Yeah, look at that extension.
Yeah.
Came in handy.
All right, now, obviously, we're gonna paint the straps, do touch up on, you know, the side of the barn here.
Yeah, you can see where I kind of burned it from the welder, so that whole thing needs to be touched up. And then, of course, we didn't have a downspout, and we got a big rain for like 5 minutes maybe, and it filled up almost a 5-gallon bucket just right here, but a lot of the dirt from the ground splashed on there. So
it'll clean off with the next big rain.
yeah.
So
All right, so we'll grab our little section of pipe and we'll connect that leaf heater, and then we'll jump to the oven.
all right.
This is our makeshift one. And these aluminum gutters, they cut them to fit, but then they just take a little screw. It's like a tech screw, and they just put that in there, and that's how it's connected everywhere. You can see. So we're just gonna take this one off, and we're gonna use this double elbow here, coming from the gutters, and then we'll put this into our leaf heater. Okay, so here is our downspout aluminum one, the temporary one they put on, and it basically just goes, they have some holes already drilled here, and I'm going to put it right back where it was, but you can see with the leaf heater and these metal pieces that I put on here to weld the gutter, it now pulls this off of the shipping container. So what I need to do is I need to take this apart and make this section, this little piece right here, smaller, so that it will hit just right in here, and then we'll be able to lift this leaf heater up to clean the screen. So just a little bit of a challenge, but we'll make it work. So it looks like we need to take 2 inches off of this. So we'll cut 2 inches, and then this little section, when they make these, they crimp the end here to allow it to fit into another piece of this same material, which they bend and do all the stuff in there. So I'm gonna make sure I cut off the part that's not crimped.
All right, so because we need to cut this piece of the downspout and we're not really sure how we should do it, Levi's gonna try using his chop saw, but we're gonna use like a spare piece of downspout that we have, see how it works.
It should go nice. I've cut a lot of aluminum on my saw. It does a nice clean job, and it makes it nice and square. And because this is going to be visual forever, I don't want to like take a sawzall and like hack into it or something. So I think this will work, but I want to make sure. Safety glasses. All right, so I'm going to use like just a scrap chunk of 2x that we have laying in there to hopefully keep this, to make it a little bit heavier and to keep it from squishing down in there. It makes it a little more rigid. So let's see, this might be loud. All right, so that worked really good.
Wow, it did a great job. It actually looks better than the cuts they did.
Yeah, so they probably have like a crimp machine or something. So we'll go ahead and cut our piece down. So we want to take it off this end. I have a mark at 2 inches, and putting this piece of 2x4 also gives me the ability to stay away from the blade here too. So. All right, turned out perfect. Do a little test fit. This is the part that goes up into the gutter itself, so I know that goes up there, and then this is the part we just cut off, so that goes on there, and then here is our other. Now the hole's down there. I need to flip this piece over. See, there's already a hole here, and I want to make sure I don't want to put new holes in this stuff, so I just have to figure out how they had it set up before. All right. Okay, so now that lines back up with that one. Let's see how this is.
Perfect.
Screw that right on, and then that will just put itself up. And then we'll still be able to take this leaf eater, slide it up, get it to come off there, slide it up, and still be able to get to the screen to clean it once in a while. We don't have a whole lot of leaves here right now, but eventually down the road we're probably going to plant trees and stuff, so hopefully that'll help keep anything out of our water tanks. All right, so we have our piece put back together, put 2 new screws in here, and the reason why we're not using this aluminum stuff, since they already put it on the barn for us, is because these seals where these connections where they come in are not sealed. So because our system is a wet system and there's going to be water in here all the time, you can't have water in here, it would just leak out. So we have to use PVC, which was glued, so there's a seal there that prevents water from coming back out. So we can get away with using this aluminum stuff up there because the leaf eater isn't meant to hold water. If the water ever backed up, it would actually spill out of the leaf eater. It's not like a sealed connections up there. So we can get away with using these. It looks good, it matches our gutters, and it's a good transition to the black pipe that's on the shipping container. So I think it's gonna look really cool.
And also, I think too, I mean, I guess you would do an elbow if you did it up there.
Yeah, we would have to buy elbows, which
I was thinking it would be like out a foot away, but that's not how it would go.
But we still would have to have 2 new elbows or 2 new 45s and a piece of pipe and all that stuff. And then we would have to figure out how to connect the PVC to the gutter up there. And so this is already connected for us. It doesn't leak, we know that. So it's just a really nice clean transition from the gutter to the PVC.
Also, wanted to point out that the cows are now back in their pasture and no longer threatening our greenhouse garden. So yeah.
It is. We'll be able to put our gray bucket over here and empty these. So, a little clean up and touch up paint to do. Let's jump on that extension right there. This side. This. 3. All right.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
You did all the hard work ahead of time, though.
Yeah, a lot of planning, and it came out to be exactly how we wanted it. Well, all right. We got the downspouts up. Everything worked out perfect. High enough for us to put a bucket under there to drain these. The brackets worked absolutely perfect. Everything turned out exactly how we planned. So thank you guys for tagging along on our build, and we'll see you on the next one.